Welcome in,
Fuck.
chat, to a new project I'm working on here. If you follow some of my other Twitch channels or YouTube channels, I do some podcasts with, I do a couple of different projects. I've got my gaming stuff with Kept It Sleazy, and I've got the Chillin' with the Dogs podcast I do with my dad about sports. But I'm excited for this new one. Um, we're going to be doing an anime podcast. I've got a couple of my buddies on here, Landon and Sean. They're going to be doing this podcast with me. And this one's going to be cool because it's going to be a general anime podcast. We'll have lots of uh, episodes that will cover like broad topics. So there might be one where we do tiers for different anime, different characters, fights. We might get into like more nitty gritty stuff. So like say when JJK comes out, there we have a couple of huge JJK fans in here, so we might do an episode discussing like the first episode. We could even get into like episode reviews. It just depends on what's kind of going on in the anime world and what we're watching at the time. But with that, I do want to introduce my boys here. So we got Sean. Sean, if you want to say some words to the crowd.
What's up, chat? My name's Sean. Let's say my favorite anime is gonna be Dragon Ball. Just so you guys know from the start.
Yeah, and then Landon, if you want to introduce yourself.
Uh, my name's Landon, and my favorite anime is JJK by far.
All right, so later on in the episode, we're gonna go through and like discuss our favorite or like our top five anime, kind of give you guys like an idea of some of our favorite shows that we watch. But since they all said their favorite, mine is probably One Piece. I do like One Piece. I have another one that's pretty close, but if I had to say, it would be that. But yeah, guys. So the other cool thing too about this podcast is we kind of got like a different amount of anime that we've watched, each of us. Like I would say Sean is kind of in the middle. He's been watching anime for a while, but um, he's watched a lot of like the more mainstream stuff. You said you grew up with like Dragon Ball, right? So did you watch mostly just Dragon Ball growing up, or did you kind of like have a couple of other stuff that you mixed in?
Bro, growing up, honestly, I'd say my first was Dragon Ball, OG Dragon Ball. But then after that, I would say I really started on Death Note was the first one for
Yeah.
me. Was super early. Banana Fish was extremely early in my anime tenure. Banana Fish was really good, and then AOT. I was there when AOT first started in season one. Actually, I was there as season one. I was there for AOT.
Okay. Yeah. So
So
like
yeah, those were the beginning.
Sean has definitely been around and seen some anime. I have been a big anime fan since I was a kid. I grew up watching Dragon Ball with my dad and uncle, and then that kind of just snowballed. Once I got into middle school, I got into One Piece, and then after high school into college, I definitely started watching a lot more. So I'm not an aficionado by any means when it comes to anime, but I've seen quite a bit of stuff. And then recently, Landon has gotten into anime, I would say within like the past year or so. So he's kind of like definitely gonna be our newer perspective. Has seen some of the more recent like big names like JJK, obviously. Um, but yeah, so what else other than JJK would you say is like up in your echelon, or what have you seen?
Well, before I do that, I first started off Dragon Ball Super. Was actually the first anime I watched. That was by far. It was a great anime, but I always get crap from you two all the time for having watched Dragon Ball or Z or the original or all that crap. You always give me crap for it. I thought Dragon Ball was super, but like you did say, Justice, I only started watching anime like last fall, so I am new. And then moving on from that, I did start watching JJK in April time, so I did also take a little bit of time off from anime. But then from there, I really got into it heavy. I watched JJK, Solo Leveling in the matter of a week, both of them. start to finish. And then I started Demon Slayer because I knew the movie was coming out. And we were really excited to watch that. Then after Demon Slayer, it took me, what was it, less than like 2 weeks, I think, to finish Attack on Titan. And by far, in my opinion, I'm a big video game guy, but I by far think that's the best story I've ever been told in any form of a story, by far the best. And then just recently, I got into One Piece. I'm finally starting to get into it. I'm around Skypiea arc for people that know One Piece, which is only like less than 200 episodes in. I'm loving it so far. And I also just recently started watching some smaller animes like Tokyo Ghoul, Chainsaw Man, and I just started this new one called The Misfit of Demon King Academy, which I love all of them so far. There hasn't been one I haven't really liked yet.
Yeah, so that's another cool thing in this podcast, right? Is we all have different anime that we've seen, and then we all have like different amounts of anime that we've watched. So, we're gonna revisit some of my favorites, revisit some of Sean's favorites, and find new stuff to watch together, which I think is really exciting. And as this podcast grows, once we develop a community, they'll be able to give us recommendations on things they might think we like. So it's really exciting. I love doing podcasts because you have the opportunity to create that kind of community, and it's a fun project. We always are talking about anime, when we're gaming and stuff like that, and I always love making podcasts. So this was like the kind of perfect storm, but yeah, so I definitely want to get into your guys' top five animes, like we said earlier. But I do want to do a little bit of housekeeping. So to let the audience know, obviously this is our new Twitch channel. We've got a lot of stuff to do to customize it and make it better. But we're called Ramen and Rewatch. I think that's a dope name. And so I'm gonna definitely make some logos, all sorts of cool stuff, and we're gonna make socials for you guys. So like, if you're watching this on YouTube or Twitch, definitely check us out on social media as well by the same name. That way you can kind of know when we're going live. We're hoping to do weekly episodes, but going forward, we may do even more than that. Depending on how our schedule is. So if you follow us on socials, you'll know when we go live, and that will definitely help you catch episodes, keep you up to date with, how we're reacting to the anime that we're seeing, and to keep you up to date with what we're excited for. But with that being said, you guys want to get into your top five anime of all time?
Star Landing.
I guess I could start. I
I
mean,
think that's
my
probably
list isn't
best.
as but
But
I've only watched like I've only watched, excuse my French. I've only watched like 5 to like 8 animes. So it's not like I have much to pick from.
so
But like I did say earlier,
you guys are allowed to cuss. Obviously, we don't want to cuss a ton. And keep it somewhat family friendly, but like you're gonna react, So like in podcasts, don't even worry about that. And also too, I can edit it out, so don't worry about that. But
That's true.
yeah. So anyway, your top five, Lennon.
so my top five, like I did say earlier, JJK is by far my favorite anime. It's one of the two animes I've actually read all of the manga because obviously it is not finished at the moment. So I did read all of the manga, so I do know the entire story, and I did start the new Jujutsu Kaisen series that is out on Shonen Jump, which is a new series that started. It's following like the footsteps of grandkids. It's pretty good. My number two would probably have to be Attack on Titan. Like I said, the story was probably one of the best I've ever been told in my life. I think it's just a great one. And three, I'd probably watch. I have to say Solo Leveling. I just like how intense literally every episode is. People talk about how bad the plot is, but I'd have to disagree because that is another one that I have read all of the manga, and I do also think it has a very good plot. I'm not saying it's like Attack on Titan level by any means. I don't even think it's JJK level. I think it's lower than that, but it still has a pretty good plot. And then my 4 and 5 spot would probably have to be One Piece and Dragon Ball Super. Like I said, I'm only really getting into One Piece, but I'm loving it so far. I wish I could watch it quicker. I wish I didn't have to watch another 1,000 episodes to be caught up with everything. But it is the joy of watching it. But at the same time, it's like going up a roller coaster. It's like you're excited at the same time. It's like, oh my god, can we just get to the top and go already? It's like, you know what I mean. So it's like I am
Well,
excited watching it and getting to learn about all like the little characters and like the friendships Luffy makes, but I'm really excited to get to the later parts too, because obviously with social media, I have been spoiled on a lot of One Piece, unfortunately. But then I'd have to have Dragon Ball Super at 5 because it is the first anime I technically ever watched, and I do enjoy it a lot.
So I love your list. I think it's funny you said that about One Piece being a roller coaster, and like obviously you got like the rising action and a show, the climax and the falling action. I still feel like having watched 1122 episodes, that or however many it is now, that I'm still going up too. Like I'm right there with you. I'm far way further in the story, but like it still feels like we're waiting for like the climax, you know. So
Yeah,
that's
you're
why.
like right at the top, just about to go down,
Right,
and I'm
right,
just now coming up the train.
right.
It's like, oh wow, I have to
And
go
then
way
Dragon
there.
Ball, I was actually really cool because when you got into Dragon Ball, we got to watch some of that together. And I had never watched Super. I'm a massive Dragon Ball fan. And I never watched Super. I never watched Boruto because I was always worried that I wouldn't like it and it might damage like the OG for me because I love those. Those are like childhood favorites of mine. So I did end up giving Super a chance when you watched it, and it was incredible. Like I know you have it on 5. I'm surprised. I'm surprised it's not higher on your list because I do remember how awesome that was. And the Tournament of Power arc is some of the best fight scenes I've ever seen. Like it's
I'm not
incredible.
mistaken. Did you watch it in like 2 weeks after you watched it with
Yes,
me?
yeah,
Like you watched it that one time,
yeah.
you like binge watched it. I forgot you
And it's
did
not
that.
just like the Tournament of Power is dope, but then you also got Goku Black. Like there's so much stuff in Dragon Ball
Oh,
Super
really?
that
It,
it's incredible.
Champa,
Yeah,
Beerus,
yeah, yeah,
Reese. What are we talking about? Dragon Ball Super is dope.
yeah,
Whoever says like, "Oh my God, Dragon Ball Z is so much better," it's like I understand your nostalgia view
yeah.
on it, but like let's give Dragon Ball Super its flower without bringing it down to Rise Up Dragon Ball Z. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that a lot of the community, and I don't speak for the community by any means, but I think a lot of the community has some blinders on for the OG. I think that with the newer anime, I was talking to you about this last night. I feel like the newer wave of anime since I was in college has gotten a lot faster, a lot more fast paced. It's not like your long running shonens. I have a theory as to why that is. I think that a lot of the mangaka artists, like Oda, Kishimoto, like the legendary guys who have these long running shonens, they have long and stressful careers and they dedicate their entire lives to one story. I think a lot of these younger guys have seen that in their idols and realized that I want to make more than just one story. I have more to tell. And so you see the pacing in these newer shows so much faster. And I think Dragon Ball Super benefits from that because in Z, it's incredible. You have like 5 main arcs that have great villains and incredible build-up, but it feels long running and it feels like there's a lot of filler. Whereas with Super, it feels like there's really none. It's fast paced. You get awesome stuff. You get little tiny training arcs and like massive power boosts for your main characters. So I love Super. Not to go too much on a tangent, but yeah. So anyway, Sean, you want to go ahead and give us your top 5 anime?
I'm looking at them now. I've seen so much, but I mean, if I'm really looking at the list that I have watched personally, this isn't going to be my top five, but I'm going to say probably like my most like this five right here in this list is a list that I will go back and rewatch like 2 or 3 times
Right.
because I have. For me, that's gotta be that's gotta be Dragon Ball. I'm gonna be biased. Here's my first
Which
one I
one?
experienced. OG Dragon Ball.
Like OG, not Z?
OG, very first one,
I
very
just want to
first
make sure
one.
because I always thought
Yeah,
you was referring to Dragon Ball Z when you refer to Dragon Ball. I didn't. I just now realized you've always been referring to the OG Dragon Ball.
yeah. If usually if I say like if I want to refer to Z, I'll try and say DBZ or something like that. But like when I say Dragon Ball, I just think about little kid Goku, bro. Like that's my Dragon Ball. Then another one up there for me is honestly Death Note. Death Note is like one of the first psychological thrillers of an anime that I've seen, and I really enjoy those types of movies. So I was by that I really love that show. That one's up there. AOT, all time greatest story in my opinion, at least for me too, in a show. AOT is always up there. I've watched it a total of 4 times. That's also just unfortunate because I've had to rewatch it every time each season came out. Um, because I just wouldn't remember it.
Right.
Um, Samurai Champloo, that one's up there too for me. Great anime in my opinion. The soundtrack is freaking amazing. That's why I love it. It's got to be up there. Like I just want to rewatch it just so I can listen to the soundtrack. And then Black Clover. I love the story. I love the story of Asta. And I feel like don't want to spoil it for people who haven't known or don't know it yet. But but I like Asta a lot. Yuno's a dope character. And Injustice, you know how that story develops.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very cool concept and story. I like it a lot.
I have watched 15 episodes, so I do know a tiny, tiny, tiny bit about Black Clover. I know about Yuno. I know about Yami. I know about my boy Asta. Those are like my three favorite characters at the moment. But like I said, I only watched 15 episodes. I'm not even 10% of the way caught up.
Yeah, no,
Thanks.
so that's a great list. My list is pretty similar. Like, I was going through because I've either read or watched probably 50 to 75. I don't know, probably more than that. I can't really say, but I've watched a ton of anime and read a lot of it, especially the big ones. I've kind of stuck mostly to like shonens. I like fantasy, isekai, um, and some other stuff, but I would say shonen is definitely my favorite genre. So a lot of mine are going to be similar to theirs and like big names, but don't get me wrong, there's a lot. I could make like a probably top 50 list easily, and they're all full of bangers. So my number one, obviously, I said earlier, was One Piece. I think that is the greatest story ever told. Um, and I'm a big fan of not just anime. Obviously, I love movies, TV, fantasy, reading, stuff like that. So like I would say The Hobbit, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. Those are some of the best stories ever told. But I would probably say One Piece tops those for me. Like I love Lord of the Rings. Tolkien is my favorite author, but I still think One Piece, even though it's not a completed story yet, right now I would say if the story completed, I would still think it's probably the best story ever told. But I'm even projecting it to be better with how I imagine it ending. So One Piece for me will always hold a special place. I love a lot of the characters. I grew up with it, so that's definitely my 1A. If I could say there's a tie, my 1B would be Berserk. I love Berserk. Guts is one of my favorite characters of all time. I think that the manga is incredible. Um, Growing up, I obviously watched a lot of the more cartoonish sort of anime made for like a younger generation. I watched like Naruto and um, Bleach and all the big ones, and then some of the other ones. Um, but then as I got older, I started like reading some of the more adult version stuff. And Berserk is incredible. It's a great change of pace, and I think it's inspired a lot of my favorite stuff, art in general. Like obviously, we're all big
My favorite,
FromSoft fans. We're big
by
from
far my favorite game.
Yeah. His favorite game is Elden Ring. My favorite developer. Obviously you guys know from my Kept It Sleazy channel. I'm a huge gamer, and FromSoft is my favorite developer. Um, So that was heavily inspired by Berserk. Miyazaki is a huge Berserk fan, so like that kind of ties in a lot. So like that dark, like gothic sort of, not horror but like gothic fantasy, um, is totally up my alley. So Berserk is one that I love. And then the first anime I ever watched, similar to Sean, is I actually watched Dragon Ball Z first. That was my first one I ever watched. I was like 4 years old, I think, and it was on the TV. My uncle and dad were watching it. So I watched that and then went back and watched Dragon Ball as I was a little bit older. But that's also got to be my top three. Probably because nostalgia, but I love DBZ. The theme songs and like from the um, openers get stuck in my head anytime I listen to them. And I think the games like Dragon Ball Z Budokai Tenkaichi has some of the best soundtracks of all time. So like that's always gonna be a favorite of mine. I think in both your guys' lists you also had AOT as well, right? So AOT
Yes.
is in mine. Um, I think they said it enough. I think that it's an incredible story. I also watched it as it was coming out weekly. Um, and I just remember how hyped the community was for each one of those releases and the anticipation for all that. I remember like everything that was happening during that while they were writing it, like the author getting death threats, all the craziness that was surrounding that. So AOT for me will always be like special. I got to watch it when I was in college and then as a young adult. So it's definitely one of my favorites. Um, and I think that it's one of the more complex and philosophical anime out there as far as like trying to understand the psyche of Aaron and his motivations for what he did. A lot of people would say he's a villain. For me, I think that would be a great topic for one of our podcasts is defending or prosecuting Aaron. I think that'd be a sick podcast idea. But
Hey, I'll defend my boy to death.
so what
We'll
I think,
never
okay,
fuck.
not to get off on a tangent, but that's a great idea. So what we can do is I'll be the judge. We'll have Sean. Do you see him as a villain
Wait,
or
Sean,
as a
do you think
hero?
he's a villain or do you think he's a hero?
Huh?
You think Aaron is a hero?
I think he's a hero.
And do you think he's a villain?
And what do you think, Justice?
So what I think is what we do
Justice, do
is
you think he's a villain?
no. I think he's a hero.
So what do you think, Sean? You think anti-hero, correct? So villain is what we'll say.
Yeah, because the idea would be
It'll
is
be I
the
like how I'm
But
pointing
like,
at probably not
yeah.
up over there for you guys.
yeah, and
Pointing
I'm
at
like, just listen.
So how we'll do this is I have to be impartial, which I can do, and you guys can basically be like the lawyers arguing uh, his case. So like obviously Landon, you'd be defending Aaron, and Sean would be prosecuting. You can give your arguments back and forth, and then we can decide. I think that'd be a totally like a super fun episode to do. But AOT, like I said, definitely up there for me. And then the fifth spot was so hard for me to think of because like I said, I have a huge list of things. I was thinking like Cowboy Bebop. I was thinking not JJK. JJK was something I thought about. Um, I have so many favorites, but I ended up going with Hunter x Hunter. I love Hunter x Hunter
No.
as one of my favorite characters of all time in it. I'm a huge Killua fan, so I ended up going with that. But dude, that was such a hard decision because I was thinking like Mob Psycho, Tokyo Ghoul. Like there's literally endless amounts of things. I got Sakamoto Days on my computer right now. you know, like but
Yeah,
um
yeah.
but no, I ended up going with Hunter x Hunter. I think that story is incredible. Its author is one of my favorites. He also wrote Yu Yu Hakusho, so another one of my favorites. So that one was definitely on the list. But I think we have a pretty solid list, guys. I mean, it encompasses a lot of the more mainstream stuff, obviously. But I think that for me, a lot of the anime community likes to get not polarized. Polarized isn't the right word, but like a lot of people like to be niche. They like to have niche likes, and they try to have like watch something that's someone hasn't watched. For me, I've watched a lot of stuff, but I've always tried to give the great stuff its flowers. Like I think that Dragon
Right.
Ball, One Piece, all those names are known because they are deserving of the flowers that they get. And so when I was making my list, I tried to keep that in mind as well. With that being said, though, I think this is a good time to also talk about our favorite characters of all time. So, Landon brought up before the podcast, he was saying that I think for you guys to get to know us a little bit more, characters are really a good way to kind of understand like the people that we like in these shows. And so we can do like a top 5 list if you guys want to of your favorite characters in anime. And Landon, if you want to go.
I'm not gonna lie.
Can you actually start Justice so I can think of my list?
Yeah, if you
Yeah, I
guys
gotta
want to
pull
go,
up Crunchyroll and
well,
start
I can talk
looking.
all day on this, so I'll go ahead and go first while you guys want to,
You start because I gotta think.
yeah, if you guys want to think about it. So for me, my number one, I have mine uh, in order, I think. I love a lot of characters.
Okay.
Like, um, there's endless amounts of characters that I like, but I'm gonna go with like some of the more well-known ones again because, like I said, my list earlier had a lot of the more well-known anime. So my first one's Guts. I think I said earlier how much I like Berserk. I think Guts is an incredible character, and the things that he had to go through is crazy. Um, I won't get into it too much on this because we're not covering, um, Berserk now. I don't want anybody to be spoiled for it, but I think Guts is a great character. He's well developed, um, and I think he's hard not to love. Like he seems like a very stoic character, and he's doesn't really care that much about people. That's completely false, and I guess I relate a lot to that. Guts feels like a very relatable character for like a guy, obviously. So he's number one for me. Then I got two One Piece characters. So number two would be Zoro. Um, Kind of a similar character, and they're both swordsmen. One's trying to be the greatest swordsman of all time. The other one's the Black Swordsman. So I obviously am a big fan of like Japanese culture. I read a lot of like Japanese literature and stuff like that. So like the Book of the Five Rings, the Art of War, all that stuff. I like samurai culture, and so I guess that might be why I lean towards those kinds of characters. But Zoro is incredible. I think that his I don't want to spoil obviously for these two because they haven't seen it, but I think his character arc is one of my favorites. Going from a lone wolf kind of guy who had a singular goal of achieving his dream. Basically, like the only way that he can get closure from his childhood trauma is to achieve this dream that he had promised with his friend. I think that's awesome. And then along that journey, he finds someone who also has an equally crazy dream and feels like he can tag along with this guy and achieve their dreams together. I think that's pretty cool. He's the vice captain of the boys in One Piece. So I think his character is incredible. Um, I my other One Piece character, I was like, I'll give two spots because I love that anime so much. I was torn between Sanji and Shanks, and I did decide to go with Shanks, just because Shanks has always been such a cool character. Growing up watching the show, whenever Shanks was on screen or would show up in the manga, it seemed like the community would erupt. He always just had so much hype behind him. And now that we're into like the God Valley flashback, we're getting a lot more of his backstory fleshed out. And so it's kind of like rejuvenated some of the hype for me around his character. And I've just been so excited to see what happens with Shanks. So he would be probably my number three. And then, as I mentioned earlier, my number five anime is Hunter x Hunter. So my favorite character in that is Killua, like I said. I think he's number four. I don't think either of you guys have watched Hunter x Hunter, right? Yeah.
I have not, no.
So that will probably be one that we get into eventually. Um, it could be years down the road, could be whenever, but I won't spoil his character, but he is, as I'm sure a lot of the audience knows, a fan favorite character in that. He is the main character's best friend, but he's also grows up in like a family of assassins, and that creates a whole part of his character. Also, has one of the coolest powers in anime, in my opinion. Godspeed is incredible, um, and I think his character art is pretty cool too. So I'm excited for you guys to get to see him. I know a lot of the community likes him, but that's my number four. And then my number five is going to be from DBZ. And this was hard because, like, number five, I have tons of favorite characters. Like I said, I've watched a lot of shows, and I have a lot of favorite DBZ characters. I have a lot of favorite Naruto Bleach characters, but I had to go with Vegeta because he's one of my OG favorites. He's probably my first favorite anime character that I ever had. Just because like I always sort of kind of with Goku, a lot of people obviously love Goku. He's one of his like everybody's favorite. But with Vegeta, I kind of related to more because Goku was like the younger brother of Raditz. He was like carefree, goofy, whereas Vegeta was like, um, he was a only child, a prince, and I think that for me, the eldest of four, like sometimes being the eldest, you feel like an only child sometimes because you're like having to take care as well as be a child. So I kind of related to that a little bit, like his need, like his desire to be better and to be the best. I totally understood that being an athlete. You know, growing up, Vegeta was always trying to chase someone, and for me, it felt the same way. Like I was trying to chase like the best version of me as an athlete, and so I got uh, I got along a lot with his philosophy, and so Vegeta definitely has to be on the list for me, and that's like not putting a ton of my favorite characters on there, you know, from a lot of different anime. Levi's not on there. Um, I don't want to get into a whole long list, but that's leaving off a lot of people. But anyway, are either of you guys ready for your lists?
I'm good. Yes.
All right.
I'm going to start my list a little differently than Justice. I'm actually going to start from honorable mentions first. A couple of
Oh
characters that I
no!
love that. But
I can't believe you did
yeah, I'm
honorable
sorry
mentions. I
to think
should.
about that, Justice. But unfortunately, I am going to be starting with honorable mentions. So for my first honorable mention spot, I'll put Goku and Beerus on there. Both of them. Like I said, I did start on Dragon Ball Super. That was by far my first anime I ever watched. And Beerus being an immense power, I mean, to me, that was so cool to see. Someone way stronger than the MC that the main character literally couldn't do anything to harm this character. But it was also really cool to see that the bond that they made and like Beerus like actually cherishes Goku as like a friend and not just like a subordinate type person. Like he actually looks at him as more than just a vessel for strength, and he actually looks at him as like as a friend and helps take care of his family and
Right.
helps them basically live and train. And Goku, for obvious reasons, I mean, I feel like if you watch anime and you don't like Goku, there's something probably wrong with you. It's he's not Dragon Ball isn't considered the godfather of anime for no reason. I mean, it's one of the most popular animes out there, and Goku is by far the face of it. So I mean, you can't really not like Goku. I mean, he's an immense power that's a goofball. Like, how can you not like that guy? For another honorable mention, I put two One Piece characters on there. I actually have Luffy on there. I'm loving Luffy at this point. I mean, like I said, I'm only up to Skypiea at the moment, so I still have like a lot to see with his character development. And like I also did say, I have saw a lot of spoilers, so like I do know about his family, I know about his transformations, I know about his fruit, like basically stuff I shouldn't know about right now. I do know about, but I do like Luffy. I mean, I think his character is extremely funny. He's like Goku, not on the same power scaling level, but like the goofiness of the character is pretty similar between the two. And I think I wanted to put this character on my honorable mention because I feel like a majority of anime people will never put this character on. I fucking love Chopper. I think
Yeah.
Chopper is such a cool character and he's just so funny. And like he's so innocent and hilarious and he does what he can, but he really can't do much. And then you did bring up this character. I also have Levi on my honorable mentions for the Attack on Titan verse. With it not being like an immense power verse, Levi stood out amongst all Titans and humans of that nature. Like he was better than people with guns. He was better than Titans with royal blood. I mean, there's nothing you couldn't do against Levi in Attack on Titan. He was like the pinnacle of all strength, and he was
Right.
just a mere human. And I mean, if I'm not mistaken, he's like 5'4". Like he's a really tiny guy compared to everybody else in the anime.
Yeah.
So it's like really cool to see how strong he is, and also his personality is just so sick. He kind of has like the personality of a police officer who constantly smokes and sees like dead, like works detective work and just smokes all the time. Basically, that's like kind of his personality, and I think
So
it fits Levi really well, and it's kind of cool.
mm,
Another Attack on Titan character I got on there. You want to say something about Levi?
yeah, because we kind of talked about this a little bit before off stream, but having Levi on there makes me excited for another anime for you to watch because there's a character in kaiju number 8 that reminds me of him. So obviously Hoshina I've talked to you about before. Hoshina, the vice captain, they have different personalities, but they have a similar philosophy. I think you're gonna like him, and then also I have said like JJK with Gojo, Captain Narumi. I think you're gonna love him because he's similar with that. But anyway, not to interrupt.
All right. No, you're good. You're good. And then the other honorable mention is Aaron because, like I did say earlier, I don't think he was a villain. I think he is a hero. I love his story. I love his character, and I love how he went about everything in Attack on Titan. And I just thought his character was very well written, and it's hard not to like him. So I'm gonna start at my back five and then work my way to one. So my number five spot is actually Sukuna. For JJK being one of my first main animes outside of Dragon Ball Super, I didn't really get to like experience much villains, but I thought the villain aspect of Sukuna was portrayed very well. He was kind of like a psychomaniac that just was out for blood and wanted to kill everybody, and everybody was like so afraid of him that they would not even dare testify a word he says. It's kind of like Lord Voldemort in the Harry Potter verse, for example.
That's
Like the
good.
fear
Good
factor
comp.
just behind his name that people don't even want to say it because of who he is. And I personally think his bond with Yuji is a funny bond with them being connected. And like I said, I have read the manga, so knowing how the story progresses into the third season and possibly the fourth season is very cool to see how his character like progresses and all the fights he gets in and stuff. And I just don't have any problems with Sukuna. I think he's a dope villain.
I think it's
Then
dope
my
that
number
you have a villain so high on your list too, because with Sukuna, he's got like I feel like a great villain. One way to have a great villain is to have like an overwhelming force, and I feel like Sukuna feels like an overwhelming force, and so I think that's an incredible villain to have up there.
that'll be a conversation for later.
Yeah,
My number four spot. Let's switch up the animes a little bit. I actually went with a Demon Slayer character, Sanami. He kind of has like a psychotic, personality behind him who just wants death for all demons. And I did read the ending of Demon Slayer post Infinity Castle because I did went and watch the Infinity Castle movie, and I really just wanted to feel and see what the ending was. So I did read the post of that, and Sanemi's character and how he deals with his brother and everything throughout the story. His character is super dope. Another reason I really like his character is because I do watch it in dub. So therefore, like him and my favorite character, which we'll get to in a little bit, have the exact same voice actor. And I constantly make jokes every time he's on the screen, be like, "Oh, look, there's such and such." But I'll get to my favorite character in a little bit. My third character is going to be a little surprising. I don't think you two are going to expect this. Well, you might. Is actually Anyos. This
really. All
character
right.
and the character both fall into like the same type of character. And me and Justice have had conversations like this in the past, but I think they do these two characters very well. Anyos is basically like an overwhelming power that nothing in his verse can do anything about. He basically does what he wants. I don't want to get into too much of his abilities, but like he can stop, slow down, rewind, fast forward time as much as he wants. You can kill him and completely disintegrate absolutely everything that is around him, and he can still come back to life. He can nullify magic. He can make your entire body get cramped up just by breathing, laughing, blinking. He can nullify your attacks by blinking. He can throw you 150 feet away by blinking. Like the character is so dope and so strong that like most of the time, like for One Punch Man, for example, it's not as fun to watch because you're like, oh wow, this person isn't a threat. This person isn't a threat. This person isn't a threat. But the misfit of Demon King Academy does his character so well that it's not so much as a threat to him, it's a threat to others, people around him, and there's other stipulations going on that he has to overcome to make sure everyone around him stays safe, including him, because there is still possible ways for him to be killed, but it's like you have a better chance of winning the lottery 2 billion times in a row.
Yeah,
Like it's just never gonna.
I think the difference there too, when because you brought up Saitama, is in um, the Misfit of Demon Academy, they give Anyos a support structure that he cares about, and he may not get damaged, and he might not care what happens to him, but because he cares so much for his support structure, and how they do that is super cool. I think it adds a lot of depth to his character. You can see the compassion, even though everybody around him could be viewed as ants with how much power he has. And then whereas Saitama has such a carefree and nonchalant attitude that it's hard for you to really care about like the support structure. Um, and so that gets a little bit lost in his character, I feel like. But One Punch Man season 3 just came out, so that could be something that changes as going forward. We'll see. But
And then my number three character is going to be kind of following in the same route as Anyos. It's an overwhelming strength. It's Jinwoo. Sung Jinwoo in Solo Leveling, in my opinion, is one of the dopest characters in all of anime. Just his personality is sick. The way he fights is sick. The way he goes about everything is just so dope to see on the screen. And he's like Anyos, for example, where like not much threatens him in terms of power or like defeating him and ever. So it's like it's really cool how they play his character, but they slowly build him up. Unlike Anyos, they build him up slowly from the start as a weak character and make him into a strong character. They mold him. Anyos, from what I've seen so far, at least in that anime, because I haven't finished it, he's just been strong the entire time, and he's actually getting stronger the older he gets, which is crazy. But with Jinwoo, for example, he has like the system helping him level up and stuff and control his power. And seeing where this story is going to go within season 3 and season 4 from reading the manga, I'm super excited to see it get animated. Depending on what year it gets animated, I wouldn't be surprised if you see season 3 of Solo Leveling winning anime of the year again. But personally, if it gets dropped in the same year as my favorite anime, it's probably not winning anime of the year. I just doubt it. So, but I do think season 3 is going to be really exciting because season 3 actually is the start off of the actual Solo Leveling story. The first two seasons isn't even a part of the story. Like it's just a build up to show you how Jinwoo got to strength. Now season 3 moving forward is the actual story, and I think the story is really sick. Yeah, they could have drawn it out a little bit, make it a little bit longer, but like you was talking about earlier, the newer era of animes and stuff are all more like condensed, quicker paced, and getting the story out there because like people do like probably making multiple stories. But I'm excited to see where this goes. And then my favorite character of all time, I think it would just be better to show you guys and then talk to you about them. So I got a couple things here. By far, my favorite characters got to be Satoru Gojo, the honored one from Jujutsu Kaisen.
so, chat, if you
Like,
guys don't know, Funko or Landon is a big Funko fan. So how many different how many different versions is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, including the statue.
Dang,
And I
that's
just
awesome.
bought 2 more as well.
So
I do have
what
more
makes
coming.
Gojo your favorite? Obviously, you got Anyos,
So,
you got Sanjin. They're
what
all
makes
similar
Gojo my
characters.
It's actually a funny story on how I begin to liking Gojo. So, the reason I started liking Gojo, I was at my job talking with a couple of my friends about anime characters, and I was making a joke. I was like, "Oh, Goku's smacking everybody. No one beating Goku." Then my one friend Keontae was saying, "I don't know about that. This dude named Gojo, he might lose to him." I'm like, "What could Gojo do?" And then I remember him talking. He's like, basically, he has like this barrier around him that the closer you get to him, the slower you move. It's infinity. You can never touch him. And I'm like, yeah, Goku probably loses that one then. So he explained to me what his character was, and I was like, okay, yeah, he tough. Let me go watch this. And watching the anime, I personally think they do his character phenomenal. Like him growing up, basically being viewed as a weapon his entire life, people wanting to kill him, the power of balance in the world shifting because of him being born. Curses are getting stronger because Satoru Gojo was born. Like, bro, how can you get more aura than that? Oh my god, yeah, Zenin is the fastest sorcerer ever exist. Besides Satoru Gojo, of course. No human can evade her bird strike. Besides Satoru Gojo, of course. They can't move Gojo from floor B5. Why not? Because he's Satoru Gojo. Like, bro, even the narrator glazes this character. Like, and reading the manga, his character is so much deeper than just strength. He's literally like the adoptive father of all these kids, and he takes them all in from different situations. I can't speak on like Panda. Well, Panda is obviously not his, but Yuta, for example, Yuta, Yuji, and Megami, those three, he literally basically adopted and brought them into Jujitsu Society so they would never be used as weapons and they could live as humans. That's the only thing he wanted for his students was to live peacefully. He just didn't want them to live the same way he did. And with going through his best friend betraying him and all this other stuff going on in his character and him still staying true to himself and not flipping out and just switching sides because he could have switched sides so many times throughout the show because of what was going on with him personally. So to see him just constantly battle adversity and stay true to himself and protect the ones around him, even at the cost of his own life, is just such a dope character to see. And like so much, like Justice, me and you talked about this earlier. So much stress is brought up on Gojo that is not even visible to the person that's just watching. Like when he lifts his blindfolds in the anime, you see red rings under his eyes that show he's been crying because of Gato's death. Like there's just so
Yeah.
many different things about Gojo. He's not just a super strong entity that can't overcome. He's a super strong entity that is super deep and personal with everybody around him. That it's crazy to like people only look at him as a strong character. He is super strong. Don't get me wrong. Also, he's by far stronger than Sukuna. One on
Right.
one, he beats 20 finger Sukuna. Like get that out of your head.
So
Sorry.
that's a cool thing too. Like you bring it up. There's a lot of depth with Gojo. Um, obviously he's a mentor. I did read a little bit more. I'm not caught up with JJK. I have read about 2/3 of it. He's a lot. He has lost a lot. Obviously, he lost his mentor. He's lost his best friend. He's lost pretty much everything in his life. And also too, when it happened, he lost his best friend after having probably like his greatest defeat of all time. And so in a moment where he probably could have used somebody, the person he would have leaned on ended up turning. And so I love Gojo. There's a ton of depth there. Um, you made me want to put him in the top five, but I don't know if I can yet. So and that's the thing too, right? Is there's so many great protagonists. I think it's very cool that you decided to go with like a secondary protagonist as your favorite. You know, um, I think that's the cool thing about JJK too is Yuji's cool. There's a lot there, but I do think it's the auxiliary characters that make that story what it is. Like Fushiguro is an incredible character. Nobara, I don't even know what's happening with her yet, but like, um, if her character arc is over, I thought she was an awesome character. And then not to mention all the teachers. I loved the principal. No, what's the principal? Yagami? Is it Yagami? Yeah, Principal Yagami was dope. Toto's incredible. Like Toto was my favorite character for the longest time, but yeah, no, JJK is
You can
incredible.
literally make an argument for any character in JJK and say, yeah, that's my favorite character. And I really don't think people would be like, what? Like even Jogo, for example. If you said my favorite
Oh
character is
yeah,
Jogo, you could be like, "Okay, I could
there's
see
some
that.
depth there
Like
too
that
with
would be
him.
that would make sense.
Like
I mean,
even
he's not my favorite curse personally. I have probably two curses above him. Personally, I think my favorite curse is Mahito fully evolved.
yep,
And then my second favorite is Hanami.
Hanami might be my favorite.
My second favorite, and then third is Jogo. Fourth would probably be Dragon or Dagon, excuse me.
So um, that's the cool thing too is we could always do like funny videos where we do um, like a deep dive on Jogo, and like I could literally do it. I could probably talk about Jogo for an hour because I feel like there is some depth there. Like obviously when he fought Gojo, he got humbled. His perception changed when he met Sukuna. Like there's tons of moments even with a side character, like a part of our enemy's like secondary fighting force. There is a lot of depth there. It's a great show, and that's the thing is a lot of these newer animes they're short but they're fleshed out and there's just tons of great characters that we could talk about and really I feel like even talking for a second about Gojo with you here on the podcast made me understand him a little bit better, and that's kind of part of why we're doing this podcast is it's going to be fun to kind of share our experience, but also as we're talking and as our community grows we're going to really be able to dive deep into some of these topics that we really enjoy and learn more. So with that being said, we're about 50 minutes into the podcast. Was there anything you guys wanted to talk to the community about anything that you're excited for coming up. I know obviously we talked a good bit here about JJK. We've got that coming up later in January, I believe. Got Freer and
No, no, December 5th.
oh, it's
Get it
December.
right.
Okay, that's my bad.
You heard
I
me
think
wrong.
Freerin is
I'll
in.
be theater December 5th.
Yeah. So we got Chainsaw Man the movie obviously coming out. We all three just watched that. Not the movie. We watched the anime to get ready for the movie. But um, we got Chainsaw Man now. We've got JJK in the future. We've got Freerin coming up um, early next year. There's a lot of cool stuff to look forward to. So, was there anything in particular you guys are looking forward to?
Black Clover.
That's a huge one.
Now, something that I'm looking forward to heavily that I haven't even started watching yet is actually Bleach, ironically.
Oh yeah.
I'm super excited for the 1,000 Year Blood War. I'm super excited to watch Ichigo and Aizen fight and whatnot because that's just gonna be a sick fight. I'm excited to see what happens.
So that's the part too that's kind of sad. Like, and when I was, growing up, being an anime fan, we didn't have like anime TikTok to go to or anime YouTube. There was that stuff out there, but you had to really go looking for it. So like, obviously, Landon shouldn't know who Aizen is or that he would be fighting, Ichigo. But he's kind of spoiled in that, so that kind of sucks. But I think it adds a little bit of flavor
To
to it
be
too.
fair, Landon, I didn't even know either. And I've known a lot about Bleach, but I didn't even know who the hell Aizen was until literally just now.
Right.
You don't know who Susuke Aizen is? That's crazy.
So that's the thing, right?
Oh,
Is
Ew.
now we
fuck.
have
Tell
like
you.
the new fans of anime can really get into like these older shows because they have they can go to their TikTok and watch a reel of what happens and why Sasuke Aizen is one of the greatest villains in all time. I think you can see that stuff and get excited for those animes, so that's cool too. Landon, and I guess even Sean too. Like we all can,
Hey, real quick, Justice.
yeah.
I think you should let Sean talk about his 5 favorite characters.
Oh, did you not do your five favorite characters yet? I could have sworn you did.
No.
Oh well, hey guys. I guess I moved
You
on
and
too quick.
I was sitting here, I'm like,
See,
because I know he typed it on the notes, and I'm like, wait a minute, I don't remember him talking about any of these
dang. Well,
characters.
I was trying.
And
I guess we
what he's
went.
doing with it, he's rolling.
My bad. Okay, no, that's
I was
perfect.
just rolling.
Hey, perfect. Let's go ahead and go. So let's do this to basically finish up what I was saying there. We will here in a second talk about like some of our favorite stuff coming up. But before we do that, I do want to get into Sean's top five because I am really, really curious. For some reason, I thought that you had said it quickly, but maybe I was just thinking about your favorite animes.
Nah, bro, you're good. All right. So my honorable mentions: Kaneki, Tokyo Ghoul.
Huge.
Kaneki's up there for me. I love his character. Later, you'll get to experience in a little bit. I fuck with Kaneki, bro. That one really hit home, bro. I think I watched Tokyo Ghoul. I'm not gonna lie, it was a cold winter. I watched Tokyo Ghoul. It was like 808s and the Heartbreaks type winter.
Oh yeah.
And Tokyo Ghoul was just hitting, and I loved it. Um, Another one, Goku Black. Goku Black is a tough character, and at the time where he came in, I felt like it was at least a little bit overwhelming. For when the time that he came in for the anime was perfectly timed, but it just sucked that he was literally overwhelming for like 2 days, realistically. And then he got worked, which sucks. But I thought it was a tough character. I
He
thought
really?
Super Saiyan Rose was extremely beautiful. Um, I thought Super Saiyan Rose was honestly, it's probably it's definitely my top three Saiyan forms for sure. I think the cinematics on it are great. I love the pink, honestly. Um, and then another honorable mention, Itachi. Itachi's up there for honorable mention. He's a great
Oh,
character to
dude, I
me.
forgot
Um,
about Naruto characters. Really, that's funny.
bro, I got a pool in the top five. So, but To not get ahead though, to not get ahead though, Itachi's up there. Super dope character. A lot of people think he's cold hearted, but the two of the real ones, you guys know if you've seen it. Itachi's just a W character all around. I don't want to say too much. Landon wants to get into Naruto, but I don't really want to explain it too much because he's a pretty important character to the story.
Especially
Um,
Sasuke's arc.
exactly. Yeah. Uh, and then another honorable mention is Light Yagami from Death Note.
That's a
I
good one.
think Light's a W character. He's a very good. The character development throughout the show was honestly really well for someone who's very driven towards one specific goal.
I,
It's kind of like one of those things where it's like they're only striving for one goal. And you're like, okay, how are they really gonna grow? And it's only one thing that they're striving for. But no, his character development throughout the show is actually really good, and they um thought they portrayed it pretty well, honestly. Um, but to get into my top five, I would say honestly, not in order, but I gotta put Sid in there from Eminence and Shadow. His character is so dope. I mean, like you guys have seen Jinwoo, you've seen Anos, you ain't seen Sid, bro. He is just y'all. He's got the aura, bro. He's got the aura, and he doesn't even try. It's just there. He's got the aura, bro. um, he's up there. For me, Asta's up there. I'm a big character development guy, and like kind of sometimes underdog story. I love Asta's story and Black Clover. Honestly, one of my favorite characters. Uh, and then next I would have honestly probably in third Shikamaru from Naruto. Shikamaru, he's up there, bro.
I got a
What's up,
question. You
Landon?
think Sid beats Años?
Style, yes. Fight, no. Style though, Sid is crazy, bro.
And all I'm gonna say is it says might surprise him initially, but Años' omnibus awareness and magic resistance is going to remain tricky.
That's what I'm saying. Well,
Años, it
Honest is
says
just so
absolute stomp.
broken.
It says
He's
absolute
just
stomp.
that's what I'm saying. He's just so broken though. But like when you watch
It was.
Evidence
I
in
was just look.
Shadow,
I
you're
was
gonna be
just
like, he's
comparing it because you
dope as
compared
fuck.
him to like the Jin Woo and Años type character. So I was just wondering
Yeah, he's a
back up against Años and if it would actually be a fight. But yeah, unfortunately, it's not. I still haven't found an anime character that could beat Años.
yeah. It's more of a style thing. It's more of like they're all aura farming characters. Like they're all aura farming characters. Um, but then yeah, Shikamaru's up there. I love his strategic planning. He's a great character. Honestly, Loki reminds me of myself, especially when there's certain things that I don't want to do. But I catch myself just going, "What a drag!" Just like, like there's no way I really want to do this right now. Um, Goku is definitely he's definitely up there. Um, definitely my favorite character personally. Um, Now, I will say I did just mess up because my number two favorite character is Aaron Yeager. But my number one favorite character would always be Goku. Um, I wrote it wrong on my list, but I love Aaron's character. Like AOT is probably one of my favorite animes just based off the story alone. If I'm going off a story, if I'm going off a pure story, anime's got to be up there for one of my favorite animes. AOT, excuse me. Um, But overall, though, my number one character's got to be Goku. It's the first one I seen. I love Kid Goku. I mean, I got a Broly from shirt from Super right now on, but I have like four Goku shirts. I have him Super Saiyan on my wall. He's just my perfect character. I try to like literally do anything I can to be similar to like how he is. We'll work out, do everything I can.
Yeah, that's a great list. I think that, like we were talking about earlier, um, for me, I love Vegeta, his philosophy, and how he's always trying to catch somebody, and I think that lends itself to like being an athlete. I think Goku, obviously, you're an athlete. I think that lends itself to that athlete mentality too, like always looking for the next opponent to conquer, trying to be the best version of yourself, and then also like his other, he has tons of other qualities besides just fighting, but I think that's an awesome one. I love how you had Shikamaru because I think that he's a super relatable character in Naruto. Um, I wish that I was more like Shikamaru, nonchalant and carefree. Um, I definitely feel like it's a drag sometimes, but I also worry about it, and I feel like he's just chill. So that's a dope character. Obviously, you said Aaron. We all love Aaron here. And then I have not watched Eminence in Shadow, so I can't speak to the Sid, uh, but I'm excited to check that out. If that's another character that's got some aura to him, that'd be really cool. But yeah. So that completes our list. I think hopefully that gives you a little bit of insight into like some of the characters that we value in shows, and learn a little bit more about us. But getting back to that previous topic we were talking about, there's a lot of stuff coming up that we're looking forward to. We mentioned JJK is coming out later this year in December. Um, Landon definitely knows way more about that arc than Sean and I. I'm probably like a third of the way through that arc, and then I don't know if Sean's even seen
You're almost done with that arc.
the calling game.
Hmm.
So how I understand is like the third season's probably gonna be mostly the calling game, right? Like that's gonna be
It's only the calling.
okay. So if that's the
So
case,
I don't want to say it because it's kind of a spoiler, but I heard how season 3 is going to end.
right. So we don't have to get into that. On the podcast, obviously, guys, we're gonna try to remain as spoiler free as possible. Sometimes it's gonna slip out. That's unavoidable. Um, but like for stuff that isn't out yet, we are definitely going to try and not spoil. Because obviously, like I'm a manga reader. For the stuff that Landon's liked, reads the manga, and Sean as well. So for our purposes, we're gonna try not to spoil things that haven't been released. Obviously, like for stuff like say Berserk, that's been out forever, and so if we spoil on that, I'm not as concerned with that. If you haven't read that and it's been out for like 15 years, that's kind of on you. You know, so we're
What's the
gonna.
threshold that we're looking for?
Well,
It's been out for X years.
I feel like 5. Like if say like AOT has concluded for 5 years, you should be able to talk about the the ending and stuff like that because obviously,
5 years.
and we'll do spoiler warnings like before, like if we're talking about AOT, right? I'll put in on the title a spoiler warning, and then I'll say like at the beginning of the podcast, hey, if you haven't finished AOT and you're invested in it, you may not want to listen to this till after you're caught up. But yeah, that's basically how we can handle that going forward. But so yeah, we got the calling game. That's going to be exciting. I've read a little bit of it. I don't know if Sean's read any of it, but it is of hype arc, and it reintroduces Yuta to the story, which is one of my favorite characters. So I'm stoked for that. I know Sean watched it. I also watched Fearin' season 1. I don't think Landon did, but that's another one early 2026. I'm stoked for. I think that could. I don't know that it will be able to. I personally think, and I think Landon agrees with me, that JJK is probably going to win Anime of the Year next year. If it had
100%.
a contender, I feel like Freeran could be one of them.
I don't think there is going to be a contender. I think every other anime is fighting for second, basically.
Yeah, but
Because
that's
with what I read, at least in JJK Calling Games, I know how Mappa is going to animate this. It's 100% going to win Anime of the Year.
right.
It's going to be so gas. People are so hyped for it. It's you got to realize it's also one of the most popular manga selling mangas right now still.
Yep.
Like It's ended a couple. I'm not sure exactly when it ended, but like for example, I know the Sukuna versus Gojo. That's not a spoiler. Everybody fucking should know by now that they fight. Sukuna versus Gojo that came out in 2022, so that's at least 3 years old. So like,
Right.
and it's still one of the most popular selling mangas still to this day.
Right.
And also, I remember you talking about Attack on Titan earlier about the author having some backlash and death threats from like the community and stuff. Gege, also the author of JJK, also had similar problems with his fan base and his community. So the ending of JJK is rushed, very rushed, compared to what he actually wanted to make it.
Right.
That's probably also why he's extending the story
Right.
a little bit, but not fully. It's a pre sequel, but yeah.
No, and I think that's cool too. Like you get not a continuation of the story because, or I mean, like if we don't get a true ending, at least we get a continuation, which is pretty cool. I have not gotten into the new manga yet because I'm not caught up, but as I'm catching up, I'll also get into that manga. I think that's something that we'll probably talk about eventually on this podcast. But another thing, this is maybe not 2026, but is in the future that I'm excited for is the Sekiro uh, anime. They're
Oh,
making, yeah, I know we all saw when that was announced at the Game Awards or whatever it was, Gamescom or whatever, that they are doing a Sekiro one, and us all being big FromSoft fans, and now we're excited for that. So
I'm
that,
also excited for the Elden Ring anime to finally
yes,
drop too.
yes.
They've been huge spoilers on that to be coming out.
And
yes.
what's cool too about that one in particular is it sounds like the creator of it is like a huge FromSoft fan, especially Elden Ring. I guess he's played through it like 7 times. He loves the story, so I feel like that project is going to get all the love and attention it needs. I am excited for Sekiro. I know a lot of people were not iffy, but like they were questioning like the art style. For me, it's fine, but I am curious to see
I
how
think it's
that's
perfect.
received, and I'm just stoked for it because obviously that's a you know a great story. So that's some of the stuff I'm excited for. Is there anything that you guys are looking forward to?
I know Sean's looking forward to that Black Clover.
Yep.
Not gonna lie, man. Black Clover, season 2 of Chainsaw Man. I feel like it's gonna be extremely special. Um, the what else is releasing in
You got
2026?
Fire Force that's coming
Um,
out.
Fire
Um,
Force coming out.
oh, yeah, that Fire Force gonna hit. I know it's gonna come through at the perfect time too.
yeah, there's a lot, dude. And
Ooh,
that's the thing too is I was looking it up before the podcast. We still have a couple things here this year, but I feel like 2026 is going to be a big year for anime. And we may not know everything that's coming out already, but I can't even remember everything. I've got a couple of things written down. I never really watched The Fates, but I know that's a big um, series for people, so that'll be exciting. That's early 2026, I think. Trigun, or sorry, Trigate, that's one that looked pretty cool. And then you and I started MF Ghost. That's kind of a different anime than what I've usually watched. I've watched a lot of like fantasy. Other than Shonen, I've watched like a lot of fantasy, psychological thriller stuff like that. But I've never really watched like racing or sports anime. So I'm kind of excited to get into that. Um, I think another one too. I just thought of Windbreaker should be coming out again soon. I don't know if that's next year, but
that's
that'll be
that.
another
Yeah,
one.
that's what I was looking forward to too. I just saw it on my screen right now.
There,
Windbreaker season 2.
I'm just sitting here thinking about all the stuff we have to talk about. Like, there's so much cool stuff coming out. Um, One Breakers one, I'm excited. Another one that's very similar to a viral hit. I watched the first season of that, and that was hilarious. I hope that they continue that story. But we've got tons to talk about, guys. We've got.
Did you watch the new season of Don to Don?
I have not. I watched the first episode. I watched the first episode, and I was gonna go and re-watch season one and then just do it completely. I still need to do that yet. But from everything I've heard, it's hype. Um, a lot of people have been into it. Don 2 feels. I like your Gojo statue there. Just chilling. That can be like your desk prop. But
Awesome. Like me and a Toji.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. But yeah,
We
there's a
should
lot of
show our
stuff. We could do that for an episode too. Like we can, because I've got obviously I've got some Funkos as well, but I've also got some cool other stuff too, like statues and uh, merch that would be cool to show off. So I think we should do that in an episode. But that's I think we're at about an hour and 15 minutes. Were you guys wanting to talk about anything else before we hop off here? All right,
No,
guys.
I'm good, twin.
So that was our first episode of Ramen Rewatch. This is our new podcast. I'm stoked for it. We didn't get into anything too specific, obviously, because this is our first episode, and we wanted you guys to get a little taste of our personality and what the show was going to be about. But again, we thank you guys for coming in and checking out the show. I'm going to go ahead and get this uploaded to YouTube. I'll make a Ramen Rewatch YouTube channel. You guys will be able to find it on there after this. So normally how it'll work is we're gonna post to the socials, let you guys know when we're going live, and then we'll go live on Twitch. I'll take those and upload them on YouTube and make some podcasts. Uh, I'll make the podcast for you guys as well. So if you like listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, anything like that, you guys will be able to find it there. So I'm stoked for this. It's been a long time coming. We've been talking for like a year about doing this. We finally did. And so I think we're all really excited to keep going with it and kind of see where the podcast takes us. I do want to let you guys know going forward as we make more episodes and get more comfortable doing this, we are going to have guests on. So we'll have some of our friends that also enjoy anime on. I know Sean, his brother, is also a fan of anime, so we might have him on. But there's a lot to look forward to if you enjoy anime and want to hang out and just kind of talk anime with us. So, that being said, I think we'll wrap it up here. We'll see you guys.